Anti-counterfeiting trade agreement, despite the word trade, is essentially an intellectual property enforcement agreement. The agreement asks the law enforcements, including custom and border officials, judicial courts, and the internet intermediaries, including the ISPs, to help the IP owners to discover infringement and to prosecute against the infringers. Globalization allows people to gain access to products and knowledge, but not everyone is willing or able to afford the price. In the recent decades, technological advances unleash unlimited possibilities. Three major developments are strongly linked to the things the ACTA is looking to regulate. These developments are: 1. Digital technologies enable perfect copying of books, music, movies, software programs, and all kinds of cultural content you can think of. 2. International trade brings counterfeit goods and replica name brand products everywhere for consumption. 3. Brilliant engineers and scientists, backed by large research funds from pharmaceutical companies or multinational corporations. They research and develop wonderful products, including life-saving medications. However, engineers in the developing countries are able to reverse engineer and produce products of similar effects, selling for much lower prices. So, these trends worry content providers and intellectual property owners. They think the new technologies are making piracy much easier. So these corporations have come together and been famous for lobbying their governments to take actions to protect their intellectual property both domestically and overseas. If someone has invested money and time and mixed his creative labor to produce and publish a product, an artwork, a book, a music album, we certainly want to protect his or her right to make sure he or she has enough income to sustain his lifestyle to keep on creating more great works. So, a global enforcement standard is not a bad thing, but imposing a standard desired by IP exporting countries and corporations on content users located in both developed and developing countries is simply not fair. Amongst the criticisms against the Acta, one of the most prevalent criticisms is lack of transparency and accountability during the negotiation process. Much literature on the internet has talked about all but 2 of the 36 signatory countries are developed countries. The IP exporting countries do not release any information or make an effort to consult the general public when they negotiated Acta. The negotiation process was shrouded in secrecy. Secondly, Acta in effect criminalizes copyright and trademark infringement and asks the public authorities to help the right owners to discover, investigate, and prosecute this infringement. When copying and distributing is a crime, the state will have to use means that violate privacy and fundamental human rights to investigate the crime. There is a lot of information and videos available on the internet about the first 3 criticisms I listed here on the slide. I intend to elaborate more on the critical aspects of global IP law-making regime shift. One of the reasons the Acta takes on so much heat from the very critical general public is because the Acta seeks to change the international IP laws, but the negotiation states do not make this change through the existing international IP law-making mechanism. The existing IP law-making regime is located in WIPO and WTO. In WTO and WIPO, although not without criticisms, both mechanisms involve official participation from all countries around the world. On the contrary, the Acta membership has been by invitation only. In addition, the negotiation process was shrouded in secrecy. Nobody knew what was going on until WikiLeaks posted some of the leaked Acta text. The developing countries have successfully pushed for a development agenda and other rules and exceptions in the WTO and WIPO regime. The IP exporting countries therefore uses Acta to bypass this existing mechanism to prevent the IP importing countries from participating. The issue with having the global IP enforcement standard changed in secrecy and decisions made within a small groups of countries is that it is not fair for countries not invited to the negotiation table. But the worst thing is, these signatory parties will very likely make trading contingent on the trading partners' incorporation of the Acta IP protection standard into their domestic IP laws. This is a credible threat because Acta signatory countries include some of the largest economic bodies in the world. I use the term IP exporting countries vis-a-vis to the IP importing countries, but it would be wrong to assume a state is a unitary actor. Many scholars in the United States, as a leading state in the Acta negotiation, also question the fundamental assumptions in the current copyright law. Some scholars believe the internet offers possibilities never before imagined, and it is wrong to kill these possibilities while letting the public authorities enforce copyright on behalf of the private companies. Some others believe the overexpansion of copyright protection will hurt the incentive for genuine artists to create and deter public access to knowledge. The debate over expansion of copyright protection and enforcement standard continues. What are the possibilities the scholars so adamantly treasure? Most of the scholars do have high expectations for the internet. For example, Benkler Yochai sees social production as a powerful force for individual liberty. He argues that people used to be passive recipients of news, information, norms, and culture. But with the emergence of the internet, now they are active creators. Think about YouTube, Wikipedia, and blogs, and other user-generated content everywhere on the internet. On user-generated content like Wikipedia and YouTube, Benkler further argues about his liberty. The internet users has decided to take advantage of some combination of technical, organizational, and social conditions within which we have come to live, and to become an active creator in his or her world, rather than merely to accept what was already there. The belief that it is possible to make something valuable happen in the world, and the practice of actually acting on that belief, represent a qualitative improvement in the condition of individual freedom. Therefore, we are autonomous individuals and active participants in creating cultural contents with the help of the internet. The band Negative Lens Don Joyce has once also said, "What happens when technology democratizes the techniques and the attitude and the method of creating in a way that haven't been known before? In terms of collage, what happens when anybody can now be an artist?" This eventually begs the ultimate question: what norms and then law will govern this kind of creativity? Benkler has a very lefty answer for our reference. He is an advocate of open access to the network economy. He strongly opposes privatizing the information commons by allowing owners to exercise property rights. Instead, he favors a public ownership network infrastructure, loose enforcement of intellectual property rights, subsidized R&D, and strategic regulatory interventions to negate monopoly control over essential resources in the digital environment. His belief is on the opposite end of the spectrum of the legal philosophy the Acta was based on. But this is a framework worth taking note of. Acta clauses and expansion of copyright enforcement will certainly disappoint Benkler. On the same topic, Lawrence Lessig distinguishes between read-only culture and read and write culture. Read-only culture is the culture of passively receiving information and entertainment, which is the dominant mode of cultural consumption in the 20th century. On the other hand, Read and write culture utilizes the new creation and distribution technologies to combine all kinds of cultural contents together to create new work. Digital technologies allow people to freely use and participate in creating culture. Examples include YouTube and BitTorrent. A democratic society will also welcome new contributions to the political forum and cultural arena. But the current copyright regime suppresses or criminalizes the variety of goods produced in this kind of new remix culture. Lawrence's main argument is that the emergence of the new creation and distribution technologies has rendered the old copyright laws absurd and destructive. A policy reform is unavoidable. With these reflections on the flaws of the current copyright regime, and with the protests from the internet users located in both developing and developed countries, why did the government still push for an Acta that seeks to enforce the current copyright protection? Lawrence Lessig explains eloquently in his book, Remix. The quote goes, "The success of the new against the power of the old was made possible by the constitutional commitment in the architecture of the network to democratize innovation. No government could have planned for these successes because governments, at least as we Americans know them, are inherently corrupted, not by bribery, not by greed, but by the reality of campaign financing, which lets them understand the views of only the last great success and never the views of the next great success, which, as yet, lacks the funds to influence the government." So, a recap. Acta clauses help the existing corporate copyright owners to replicate their current income model. But the emergence of new technologies give rise to the new possibilities and have made this model obsolete. So, before the law adapt to the new technologies and cultural possibilities, Acta signatories must not impose an obsolete copyright regime to their trading partners. Say no to Acta.